Good evening everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 27th of April. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 5 main news and 8 quick update and 1 place in news. In the main news, we will be covering in the first main news about the anti-defection law, as AAP have submitted a disqualification plea to the Rajya Sabha chair against the MPs who have joined BJP in the Rajya Sabha. Then in the second main news, we will be discussing about the rules governing the freedom of navigation in international waters. Then in the third main news, we will be discussing about the private investment in the space economy, as India's space ecosystem have expanded, as private investment have crossed $600 million in 5 years. Then we will be covering about the biodiversity governance, as project to strengthen the grassroots biodiversity governance in Tamil Nadu and Meghalaya have started. Then in the last main news, we will be covering about the Farmers Producer Organization, as a paper by the National Academy of Agriculture Science have highlighted challenges associated with FPOs. Then we will be briefly covering 8 quick update and 1 place in news, that is Mali. So this is the brief about today's session, and along with the main news, we will be also discussing the PYQs, mostly from the prelims examination. So let us start the discussion with the first news. So first news is related to the anti-defection law. And here the context is that AAP party have submitted a disqualification plea to the Rajya Sabha chair against MPs who have joined BJP in the Rajya Sabha. In this news, we will be learning about this issue, anti-defection laws, and what are the rules related to anti-defection in India. It is related to paper 2, where syllabus talks about parliament and state legislature, structure, functioning, conduct of businesses. Let us start the discussion. First of all, the development. So development is that the 2/3 of the Rajya Sabha MPs of the AAP have quit the party and joined the BJP, leading to the submission of disqualification plea. So there was 10 MPs in the Rajya Sabha of the AAP government, the AAP party, and out of those 10, 7 have joined the BJP. So this is the issue, and we will be discussing the related issues and what are the rules related to it in this news. Let us first understand about the defection. So it was observed that most of the MPs and MLAs in 1960s and 70s used to join a different party after winning from a different party, in lieu of many things such as a cabinet post or some special benefit joining that party. Even a MLA from the Haryana in the year 1967 have changed the party 3 times in a single day. He was in a different party in the morning, and in the afternoon he was again in a different party, and in the evening again he was in a different party. To stop such type of movement or defections of the MPs and MLA, which is harmful for the democracy, this anti-defection law was brought in. So now let us discuss what is this anti-defection law and what are the rules under this law. So it is there under 10th schedule, and disqualification is governed by a anti-defection law. It is popularly known as anti-defection law. It was added in the constitution through the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. It was amended by the 91st Amendment. And why it was amended? Because in the original act, 1/3 of the party, that was known as split, was allowed, and it was said that the anti-defection law won't be applicable to these members who are splitting from a party. But that was misutilized by many members. So to curb that, this 91st Constitutional Amendment Act strengthened the anti-defection law by removing that provision, that 1/3 split provision, and making it at least 2/3, that is now known as merger. And what was its objective? Objective is to aim to combat the political defection and safeguard the democracy, and it also bring a stability in the democracy. And what are the grounds for disqualification? So suppose a MLA or MP have been elected from a particular party, and if he or she gives voluntary giving up a party membership, then this law will be applied. And also, if he or she defy the party whip during a voting in the state assembly or the parliament, then also this law will applicable. And here there is criticism as well, as it make the MPs and MLAs more aligned with the parties. Then a independently elected legislature, if he or she joins a political party after entering to the house, even then this law will applicable. And if a nominated members join any political party after 6 months from the day he becomes a legislature. So there are 12 nominated members in Rajya Sabha, and there used to be 2 nominated members, Anglo-Indian, in the Lok Sabha, but now they are not there. It was removed. The provision was removed. So here, this is the issue, and there are some issues related to this act as well, as the deciding authority is the speaker or the chairman, and most of the time speaker and the chairman is from the ruling party. Then one more issue, that the time frame to take the decision by the speaker or the chairperson is not defined. In the original act, the judicial review was not allowed, but by the case of Khiato Holahan of 1992, Supreme Court has said that this law is constitutionally valid, but judicial review applied in some cases such as Malafide. So this was the thing. Now let us discuss what is the present issue between the AAP and the BJP. So in the 10th schedule and this law, disqualification on ground of defection is not applied in the case of merger. So there are some exceptions to this law. One is merger. Then another is if a person is elected as speaker or chairperson in Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha, he or she can resign from a party membership, and he or she can join again after being completion of the term of speaker or the chairperson. That is also one exception. Then one more exception, then suppose if a MP and MLA quit his or her membership and then join the party, then also it won't apply. So here the issue is of merger, and the whole issue is regarding that original political party. So in the original text of the 10th schedule, it is mentioned that a member of a house shall not be disqualified whereas a original political party merges with another political party. So here the original political party is the AAP party. So they have filed plea for disqualification with the chairperson. So they are saying that these 7 members does not constitute the original political party. They are just the 7 members of the Rajya Sabha, not the original party. So the disqualification plea argues that the 10th schedule require a genuine merger of the original political party. Here, the original political party is up, not just the legislators switching the side. So this is the issue. And one more important fact for your prelims examination, that the chairperson or the speaker cannot take a suo motu case here. One member has to file a plea. It is given that the chairperson cannot take the suo motu case in this issue, and he or she will act as a tribunal. These are some important facts related to prelims examination. Now let us solve PYQs related to this news. And both of the PYQs here that we will be discussing, one from the year 2022 and another from the year 2014, they are very easy. Prelims is coming and you might have studied your polity very well. So please write down the answer of the PYQ from the 2022 as well as the PYQ from the year 2014 that I will be reading now. Please write down their answer in the comment section. So the PYQ from the year 2022 with reference to the anti-defection law in India, consider the following statement. Statement 1, that the law specifies that a nominated legislature cannot join any political party within 6 months of being appointed to the House. This is the first statement. Second, the law does not provide any time frame within which the presiding officer has to decide a defection case. Both of the statements we have discussed in the news, and even if we have not discussed these statements, you should have read them in your polity class or in your polity textbook. So please write down the answer in the comment section. Let us look at one more PYQ related to this news, and it is very easy PYQ. And there are questions in the prelims examination which are very easy, and it is very important to correct those questions because everyone will be marking them correctly. So the question is from 2014 prelims examination, and the question is, which one of the following schedule of the Constitution of India contains provision regarding the anti-defection? Option A, second schedule, option B, fifth schedule, option C, eighth schedule, and option D, 10th schedule. So please write down the answer in the comment section for this question as well. It is a very easy question. Now let us move to the next news, and the next news is related to the rules governing the freedom of navigation in international water. Here we will be mostly discussing about the rules of the UNCLOS, that is United Nations Convention on Laws on Seas. It is related to paper 2, important national institutions, agencies and fora. Let us start the discussion for this news. So what is the development here? The development is that Iran has attacked ships responding to the US seizure of the Iranian ships in the conflict in Strait of Hormuz. So Strait of Hormuz is a choke point near Iran. It is between Iran and Oman. If you see the map, it will look like that it is between UAE and the Iran, but it is there between Iran on the north and Oman on the south. Okay, so it is the narrowest. The strait lies entirely within the overlapping territorial water of Iran and Oman and is governed by the transit passage under the UNCLOS. So this is the complete issue and we will be discussing about it. Let us first understand that Iran have signed this United Nations Convention on Laws on Sea but have not ratified it. Such type of information is also important for your prelims examination. Whereas USA, it is very important, have not signed UNEC clause. Iran have signed but not ratified it, whereas USA have not signed as well. Okay, and here the issue is about the blockage of Strait of Hormuz, from where around 20% of the global crude oil passes through. Firstly, the Iran was saying that we will block it, and they have partially blocked it in the starting. Then they almost completely blocked it and gave passage to the particular countries, and even India got a passage in the Strait of Hormuz. The ships of India was allowed to pass from the Strait of Hormuz. But now USA is saying that we will block the Strait of Hormuz. This is the issue which is going on, and it is in providing an instability in the global trade. Now let us discuss what are the laws which are applicable on the international waters. So, what is the institutional architecture which is governing freedom of navigation in international water? So, it is basically governed by the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea, UNCLOS. Okay, and the core principle of this convention are global common, that sea are there for the global world. Then freedom of navigation and resource right and dispute resolution. The UNEC laws have divided the maritime zones between three areas. One is territorial sea, then exclusive economic zone, and then high sea. And up to 12 nautical mile from the coast is the territorial sea, and up to 1200 nautical mile it is exclusive economic zone, and after 200 nautical mile it is high sea. Okay, recently high sea treaty was also there in the news. Okay, last I think November or December it was there in the news as well. So please prepare that treaty as well. It is important for your prelims examination. So what are the rights which are applicable in these three areas? First of all, in the territorial sea, that is transit passage. So it applied and it recognized free unhindered passage to the foreign ship, but with few restrictions such as purpose, route, delay and loading. So basically, suppose this is a coastline of some country. So up to 12 nautical mile is the territorial sea. So here as well, the unhindered passage of the foreign ships are allowed, given that those ships does not create a threat to the country. And innocent passage right, that is applied to the merchant ship and even the war ship. This statement is important, that innocent passage right is applied to the merchant ship as well as the war ship. Innocent here means that ship does not pose a threat to the nation. Then the exclusive economic zone, that is up to 200 nautical mile. So here freedom of navigation is not absolute. Even in the territorial water it is not absolute. Sovereign rights of the states are such as over resource exploitation, the resources which are there in the exclusive economic zone, and energy production, along with jurisdiction over artificial structures such as island. Then marine scientific research in this area. If another country want to do a scientific research, it have to take permission from the original country. Then environmental protection and other UNCLOS defined duties are applicable in this area. Then the area beside this, that is known as high sea. Here it is open to all states, and there are some exceptions such as hot pursuit of vessels. What that mean? Suppose if a vessel have committed a crime in the territorial water, then it cannot flow to the high sea and say that no law is applicable on me now because I am in the high sea. That is not the scenario. Then explicit authorization by the UN Security Council. So UN Security Council can authorize to hamper or to stop someone passage. Then vessel without a nationality. So to pass from the high sea, every vessel should have a flag state. That means it should be registered in one or the other country. Okay, and there are some scenario where interception is allowed by the flag state. So these are the scenarios, or these are the rights applicable. And in Straits of Hormuz, they transit passage, according to transit passage, is applied. Basically, it is there in the territorial sea or the territorial zone of the Oman as well as in the Iran. Now, let us move forward and understand about the key challenges to the freedom of navigation in international water. First one is geopolitical and strategic. Freedom of navigation is often disrupted as state uses the choke point and sea line as a tool of strategic leverage, blockade and power rivalry. How Iran have used the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. Then legal ambiguity, because there are difference in interpretation of the UN clause and weak enforcement mechanism applicable in considered in condition to UN clause. That is also there. And some countries, as we have discussed earlier, some countries have not signed the UN clause. For example, USA have not signed United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea. Then unilateral action and sanction. You might have read last month, USA have blocked the energy vessels to Cuba, and it completely blacked out the Cuba. That sanctions were unilateral by the USA. So US intercepted the ship trading to the Venezuela oil and carrying oil to the Cuba under the domestic laws. These are some issues with the freedom of navigation in international water. Then there are security threats as well, that is piracy as well as terrorism. So these are the issues. Now let us discuss PYQ related to this news. So PYQ is from the year 2021. And if you have read about UN clause, you might be able to solve this question. Although it was there in the news at that time as well. So it is mostly inspired from the current affairs. So first statement, the Global Ocean Commission grants licenses for the seabed exploration and mining in the international water. This is not the correct statement, as International Seabed Authority grants licenses for seabed exploration and mining in the international water. So first statement is not correct. If you know that, you will come to the answer. And we are talking about the year 2021. 2021 and 2022 are very difficult papers. And such types of question become very important because it is relatively easy and it was inspired from the current affairs. Even in your static part, you might have read that International Seabed Authority, which is there under UN clause, grants licenses for seabed exploration and mining in international waters. Now let us read the second statement. India has received licenses for seabed mineral exploration in international water. Third, rare earth minerals are present on sea floor in international waters. So both of these two statements are correct. Let us move to the next news. And next news is related to the private investment in the space economy. The context here is that the India's space ecosystem has expanded as the private investment have crossed 600 million US dollars in 5 years. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about achievements of Indians in science and technology. let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, let us learn about the status of private sector participation in the space economy and why it is important. So, ISRO, which looks after the space mission, was founded in the year 1969, and the first satellite we have sent to the space was Aryabhatta. So we used to send our satellite, which was basically for our usage, telecommunication satellite or the satellite for resource mapping. But in the year 2008, we have sent our mission to the moon and showcase our capabilities to do the more complex space mission. And at that time, the New York Times has put a picture of India. You might have seen that picture where there is a room and where it is written that the Elite Space Moon Club, and here they have shown Indians with cows try to come inside that mission. Later, the New York Times have said that they are sorry for that image and that was mocking of Indians in that image. But Indians have proved in the year 2008 by sending and landing the Chandrayaan mission on the moon. Now, what India wants or what government wants, that ISRO should be more focused on the research objective, whereas the other things can be taken care by the private sector. This is the background of this news. Now let us discuss the status of private sector participation in the space economy. First of all, the rapid growth of the startups increased from the single digit number in 2019 to 400 plus startup by the early 2026, indicating the strong private participation. So number is increasing, investment is increasing. That means there is a strong presence or there is a increase in the presence of the private partners in the space economy. Then diverse sector preferences. So these startups are active across the entire value chain, including the launch vehicle, satellite and payload manufacturing. Payloads are the small components on the satellite, ground infrastructure and the other investments. Then first private rocket launch in the year 2022, a private startup which is based in Hyderabad launched Vikram S and became India's first privately built rocket launched under Mission Prarambh. So this is the status of private sector participation in the space economy in India. Now let us move forward and discuss about the significance and need of private sector participation in the space economy. First of all, the high growth potential. So India's economy, especially the space economy, is expected to reach the 400 billion US dollars by the year 2022, and that will amount to 8% global share. And not only we will export the product, but we will also launch various satellites of the various countries. And it is expected to reach 100 million US dollars by the year 2010, and then the share will be 10%. That means the share in the global share will increase. Then infrastructure development, as the privately led Earth observation satellite constellation is now based on the PPP model. Then global competitiveness. So we have to compete like global giants like the SpaceX. You might be aware about the SpaceX of the Elon Musk, and it is very famous private organization in the private sector. And the Blue Origin, and for such type of competitiveness, it requires a policy support from the government to the private players. Then better accessibility and services. Private sector can expand affordable satellite internet. You might be aware about the internet satellite. Okay, satellite internet, sorry. Then remote sensing. Remote sensing is basically knowing about the earth resources and about the atmosphere from a distance. And the navigation services. There are issues with the Indian NAVIC system. That's why navigation services are also in the news. We will be also looking at one PYQs which is related to the navigation services. Let us move further and understand about the initiative taken to promote participation of the private sector in the space economy. First of all, the Indian space policy of 2023. It is very important and it enables end-to-end participation of non-government entities in all domain of the space activities. So it is a watermark here, and it enable and enable end-to-end participation of non-government entities in all the domains of space activities. And there are key organizations which promote the private participation in the space economy, and it include in Space Antriksh Corporation Limited and New Space India Limited. Then foreign direct investment, up to 74% of FDI is allowed for satellite manufacturing and operation, and up to 49% for the launch vehicle and space port. Then there is Space Tech Innovation Network. It is a public-private collaboration for the startups and the small and medium enterprises in the small industry. Then government is also supporting the early startups. And how they are supporting? By providing the financial support as well. So they are providing venture capital fund by the SIDBI, and it include 1000 crore fund. Then there is technological adoption fund. It is by the InSpace, and there is seed fund scheme as well. It is to support the startup which are there at the early stage. Let us discuss the PYQ related to this news. So first PYQ is from the year 2023. You have to solve this PYQ. Okay, so the question is, which one of the following countries has its own navigation system? A, Australia, B, Canada, C, Israel, D, Japan. So there are mostly 4 global navigation systems and 2 regional navigation system. 4 global are with USA, that is GPS, then with Russia, then with Europe, and then with China. Then there are 2 regional navigation system. One is with India, and the another is the answer for this question. Please look at the answer for this question and write down the answer in the comment section. Let us move to the next question, and next question is from the year 2019. It is an easy question. For the measurement and estimation of which of the following are satellite image remote sensing data used? Chlorophyll content in the vegetation of the specific location. So how much sunlight is there, how much sunlight is reflected from the plants, that can be used for the chlorophyll content in a vegetation of a specific location. So first statement is correct. That will lead to elimination of B and C. Then second statement, greenhouse gas emission from the rice paddies of a specific location. So that can also be observed. Okay, so it is also an correct statement. Then land surface temperature of a specific location. You might have seen those images where the satellite imagery has been given to look after the land surface temperature. So this statement is also correct. So answer is D, 1, 2 and 3. With this, we have completed this news. Now let us move to the next news, and next news is related to biodiversity governance. And the context here is that a project to strengthen the grassroots biodiversity governance in Tamil Nadu and Meghalaya. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about conservation, environmental pollution and degradation. Let us discuss this news. So the development is that the project, which is titled Strengthening Institutional Capacities for Securing Biodiversity Conservation Commitments, has been launched by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and National Biodiversity Authority. So in this news, we will be covering about the Biodiversity Act of India and what is this project, and also we will learn about biodiversity. So basically, biodiversity is all the living organisms of the planet. It basically consists of ecosystem diversity, species diversity, as well as the genes diversity. You might have read about the ecosystem, species, genes diversity. It is important to be very clear with the basics, so that if there is a question that is interlinking current affairs with the static portion, then you can analyze it if you have a very clear understanding of the basics concept, and you will be able to solve those questions. So whenever you are reading such types of news, it is important to go through the basics of that news. Now let us discuss this news further. So what is the biodiversity governance framework in India? It is through the Biological Diversity Act of 2002, and it provides for the conservation of the biological diversity, sustainable use of the component, and fair access and benefit sharing for the utilization of the genetic resources. What is access and benefit sharing? So it is there under Nagoya Protocol of Convention on Biological Diversity. And what does this mean, access and benefit sharing? Suppose there is a resource, a natural resource in a particular area, and some company is coming to that area and utilizing it to make a product which is useful for the global population. But the community which is living there should also get benefit from the profit of that product. That is the meaning of access and benefit sharing. Now let us discuss about the structure under the Biological Diversity Act. One is National Biodiversity Authority, which is there at the national level, and it operates at the national level to regulate access to the biological resources by the foreign entities, the transfer of the research abroad, and application of the intellectual property rights. Then there is State Biodiversity Board, and it is there at the state, and it regulates access to the resources, natural resources, by Indian citizens and entities for the commercial purposes at the state level. So if you notice these two bodies, so most of the function which is related to the foreign countries are looked after by the National Biodiversity Authority, and the regulation regarding the Indian citizens as well as the entities, commercial entities related to India, are looked after by the State Biodiversity Board. Then there is Biodiversity Management Committee. It is at the local level, and it tasked with the documentation of the local biodiversity and traditional knowledge in People's Biodiversity Registered. What is traditional knowledge? The knowledge which is carried by the generations. Okay, that is traditional knowledge. Now let us move forward and understand about the project. So basically it is a joint initiative of Government of India, Global Environment facility, that is the largest multilateral fund related to the environment. That is the Global Environment Facility, a extreme statement. That's why important for your prelims examination, as the questions from the environment sections are higher in the prelims examination. Then what is the financial grants? It is US dollar of 4.88 millions and timeline is for 5 years. Then where it is located? It is located in Tamil Nadu, that is Satyamangalam landscape at the confluence of the western and eastern Ghat. In the year 2017, UPSC have asked the similar question that we will be discussing and you will be writing the answer. So it include two tiger reserve, one is Madhumulai and another one is Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. Then in Meghalaya, it is therefore Nokrek Biosphere Reserve, Balkapakram National Park and Siju Wildlife Sanctuary in Garo Hills. So this is about the project. Now let us move forward and look at the PYQ. First PYQ is from the year 2023. So in India, the Biodiversity Management Committee are key to the realization of the objective of the Nagoya Protocol. Nagoya Protocol is under CBD that we have discussed. So Biodiversity Management Committee is there at the local level and it registered various resources, natural resources and traditional knowledge. So it is important and important part in the key realization of the objective of the Nagoya Protocol. So this statement is correct. Second, the Biodiversity Management Committee have important function in determining access and benefit sharing, including the power to levy collection fees on the access of biological resources within its jurisdiction. So this is also an correct statement. The answer is both 1 and 2. With this, we have completed this news. Now let us move to the next news. Before moving to the next news, let us discuss one more PYQ from the year 2017 and you have to write the answer for this PYQ. Basically, this have been discussed in the news that we were discussing. So the question is, from the ecological point of view, which one of the following assume importance in being a good link between the Eastern Ghat and the Western Ghat? Options are Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve, Nalla Malla Forest, Nagarhole National Park, Sesachalam Biosphere Reserve. We have discussed this question in the news. So please write down the answer for this question in the comment section. Now let us move to the last main news for today. So the last main news is related to the Farmers Producer Organization. And the context here is that the National Academy of Agriculture Science have highlighted challenge of FPOs in a policy paper. It is related to paper 3 where syllabus talks about agriculture. In this news, we will be learning about FPOs, their challenges and the recommendation which are given in this paper. Let us discuss the development. So what is an FPO? FPO is a legal entity formed by a group of farm producers and that include farmers, milk producer and other members with producer as a shareholder in the organization. So various farmers, various milk producer comes together and form FPOs, and FPOs is a legal entity. It's not an informal organization. It is a legal entity. And it can be a producer company, a cooperative society or any other legal form which provide for sharing of profit, benefit among the members. And it is registered either under the Companies Act of 2013 or under the Cooperative Societies Act of that concerned state where those FPOs are there. Let us move further and understand about the challenges which have been highlighted in the paper. So first one is limited scale of operation. So FPOs are working in a limited area with limited operation that have been highlighted in the paper. Secondly, there are infrastructure gaps with the FPO. They does not have cold storage or transport processing and basic facility, and that limit their value as a value addition, and they also lack the export potential because of lack of infrastructure. Then there is governance issue, as they are farmers are not qualified or not that well read, so they can run an organization, which leads to weak leadership, low transparency as well in working, and poor management practices. So it lead to the poor governance in the FPOs. Then there are other issues as well, that is low membership diversity, as members are most than often are from a particular area and a region. Then there is poor market access and withdrawal of technical support. These are the issues with the FPOs that have been highlighted in the policy paper. Next, what are the recommendation? First of all, the about the simplify of the compliances. So it has suggested to create a single window system to make the FPOs operation easier. So if they want permission or any information for that, there should be a single window. Then there should be enhancement in the financial awareness among the FPOs, because now to get credit, it is difficult for the FPOs. Then there should be technological integration, and technology also for such as blockchain, internet of things, and artificial intelligence, so that they can predict that what will be the price of this product or what will be the requirement for this product. Then institutional procurement, it is the main recommendation which have been highlighted in the today's newspaper. That is, it mandate institutional buyers such as railways, military, and food corporation of India to prioritize the product of FPOs in their procurement. So basically it is saying, so if government organizations such as railways, military, and food corporation of India are doing procurement, they should prefer the product of FPOs. Now let us discuss about the initiative of the government to strengthen the FPOs. First one is scheme for formation and promotion of 10,000 FPOs. It was announced in one of the budget, and 10,000 FPOs, the target, have been already achieved under the central sector scheme. Central sector scheme is a scheme where 100% funds are given by the central government. Then small farmer agri business consortium, it is an autonomous organization which is promoted by Ministry of Farmers. So it backs around 901 program to support FPOs all over India. Then there are some government, state government schemes as well, such as Bihar's Jivika. So with this, we have completed the main news for today. Now let us discuss the place in news for today. The place in news for today is Mali, and the context is that the India has advises its nationals in Mali to exercise caution due to security concerns. So there are various security issues which are going in the country Mali. Last year UPSC have also asked about the various countries and what was the reason for that country that was there in the news. So such type of news is important, and you have to be very clear about its geographical features. And presently in the last 2 to 3 years, UPSC have also focused about the resources and where that resources is highest, or where that production of that resource is the highest. So here we will be looking at the features of the country, that is Mali. So it is a landlocked country, that means it does not share borders with the ocean. Country in the Saharan and the Sahelian region of the West Africa. So this is Africa continent, and it is here. You can see the map. And if you observe, the prime meridian passes through it. as well as Tropic of Cancer passes through some of its northern area. And Sahel is a transitional zone between the Sahara, that is desert, and to the north, and the belt of humid savannas to the south. In that region, it is there. Then, what are the land boundaries? So, there is Algeria in the north, there is Niger and Burkina Faso in the east, then Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea in the south, and Senegal and Mauritania, that is there in the west. These are the boundary countries of it. And it is affected by the various winds such as Elise and Harmattan winds. Harmattan winds are also called as doctor's wind. Please write down in the comment section why Harmattan winds are also known as doctor wind. And what are the major minerals here? That is gold. It is the main export from this country. Then there is also iron, bauxite, manganese and lithium in this country. So with this, we have completed the place in news for today. Now let us discuss the quick update. And the first quick update is related to Vela supercluster. And the context is that the scientists have mapped the extent of the Vela supercluster for the first time. In this news, we will be covering about what is this Vela supercluster. So basically, it is collection of at least 20 galaxy cluster, each of which contain 100 or 1000 of galaxies, all gravitationally bound in a single entity. So this is the Vela cluster, and it stretches across about 300 million light years. So suppose light is passing through this supercluster, it will take 300 million years. That is its expand. Then it lies around 800 million light years from the Earth. It is at a very far distance with a region called the zone of avoidance. And what is this zone of avoidance? It is a 20% region of the night sky obscured by the Milky Way interstellar dust and stars. So there is lot of dust and stars in the sky that we see in the nights, and that results in the zones of avoidance. Then it is more massive than the Laniakea, the supercluster that contain Earth and the rest of our galaxy. So this is about Vela supercluster. Let us move to the next news. Next news is related to malaria, and the context here is that the WHO has pre-qualified the first ever malaria treatment for the newborns and the infants who are there in the weight of 2 to 5 kgs. And in this news, we will be covering about the malaria. It is caused by the Plasmodium parasite, which is a group of protozoans. Then it spread in the human through the bites of female and Anopheles mosquitoes, and those mosquitoes should be infected. Then they carry the infection from one human to the another. It is mostly found in the tropical and the subtropical countries, as the mosquitoes are higher in these areas. Then the disease is preventable as well as curable. And the key malaria vaccine for children include RTS, SAS01 vaccine and R21 matrix M vaccine. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is the Chernobyl disaster. You might have seen the mini series related to the Chernobyl disaster. I think that name of that series is Chernobyl. It is a good series. After your prelims, you can watch that series. I think it is available on Hotstar, and it is a small series. So you can watch it in a single day. And what is the context here? That the Ukraine marks the 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster under a cloud of war. So 40 years have been passed. So what was this disaster? So basically, it occurred on the April 26 in 1986 at a nuclear power plant near Pripyat in the present day Ukraine, and at that time it was USSR. Even the radiation from that disaster in these regions are still felt. Okay, that was the scale of that disaster. And what was the reason? A flawed safety test caused an uncontrolled nuclear reaction that have triggered the explosion and released the massive radiation in that region. And there are some other nuclear disaster as well. One is 3 Mile Island accident in USA, Pennsylvania, and Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan due to the earthquake and tsunami. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Luzon Island, that is Iceland in the Philippines, and the context here is that the China hold live fire drill in the water near Philippines Luzon Island. If you search for the Luzon Island, you will find that it is very beautiful island. And it is the largest island of the Philippines archipelago, and it is bounded by the Philippine Sea on the east and Subian Sea in the south, and in the west it is the South China Sea is there, and South China Sea is contexted. And to the north, the Luzon state separate the Luzon from the Taiwan. That is the state between the Luzon Island as well in the south, and the Taiwan in the north. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is Startup India Funds of Fund 2.0 scheme. And the context here is that the DPIIT have issued the operational guideline for the Startup India Fund of Funds 2.0. So there was Startup Fund Funds of Fund 1.0 as well. Now these guidelines are for 2.0 scheme. And what does the guidelines consist? That total corpus will be of 10,000 crores, and ministry will be Ministry of Commerce and Agriculture. And this implementation agency is important. It is Small Industries Development Banks of India, that is SIDBI. Then target it support the deep tech and the tech driven innovative manufacturing, empower early growth stage founders. So if you have observed the last year's statement of the Minister of Commerce, he have given a statement that India is producing startups that are not leading to the deep tech, or they are not leading to the tech manufacturing. Mostly we are focusing on the startup which are delivering the products in cheaper rate. So to focus on the deep tech and the tech driven innovative startup, this scheme is there. And what is the mechanism? To be deployed through SEBI registered alternative investment fund to boost private investment and expand the startup funding access. Please read about the alternative investment funds and its type. UPSC have asked question related to alternative investment funds and its type. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Atlas drone swarm system. First of all, what is swarm? So many species such as ship, fish moves in a coordinated and in a group manner. That is known as natural swarm. And here the news is about the Atlas drone swarm system, which is China's Atlas drone swarm system raises concern over global security. So this system is of China, and it is a truck-based drone swarm platform that integrate launch, command and support unit to deploy and control multiple drones from a single point. So these swarms, or these drone swarm moves like natural swarm in a more coordinated way from a single point. And what is their capability? It can launch up to 96 drones rapidly and allows a single operator to control surveillance, communication and attack function. That is the security threat here. We can deter the one drone, or we can deter 10 drones, but if 96 drones are coming in a coordinated manner, it becomes a security issue. Then what are its security implications? It will strengthen the asymmetric warfare capability of China and poses a challenge to the air defense system of India, as we have discussed, that it will difficult to control 96 or more than 96 drones which are coming in a coordinated manner and which are operated from a single point. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about a Falkland Island, and it is near to the South America, southernmost point. And the context here is that the UK have rejected any changes to the sovereignty over the Falkland Island, as United States policy regarding the island remain under review. So there have been leak of one of the review. Here they are saying about the Falkland Island, as well as they are talking about Spain membership to the NATO, as Spain have not supported the USA's war on the Iran. So that is the context. And in this news, we will be learning about Falkland Island. It is an internationally self-governing overseas territory of the United Kingdom. Please write down in the comment section how many countries or how many regions are there in the United Kingdom and what is the name of those regions. And this Falkland Island, there in the South Atlantic Ocean, basically this is South America. Here somewhere it is Falkland Island, and it comprises two large islands, that is East Falkland and West Falkland, and several hundred smaller ones. Lies about 480 kilometers northeast of southern tip of South America and a similar distance east of the Strait of Magellan. So this strait is important, as many states are there in the news, and UPSC can ask about their location, their mapping from north to south or from east to west. So Strait of Magellan is here. Then the islands are claimed by Argentina. So there was a dispute. There was a disturbance between UK and Argentina, which led to the war in 1982. Let us discuss the last quick update. Last quick update is about Bene Menase community. And what is the context? The context is that over 250 members of this community from Manipur and Mizoram were relocated to Tel Aviv by the Israel government. This is the context. In this news, we will be covering about this community. So they are Jewish identified community from Manipur and Mizoram. Whereas Israel law does not identify them as Jewish. That's why there is requirement of authorization. And they belong to Mizo-Kuki tribes who claim descendant from the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And the tribes were exiled in 722 BC by the Assyrian conquerors when they conquered this area, which is where the Israel is there. Then this Bine Misabe, which is Hebrew for the children of Manasseh, that is the meaning, the first son of Joseph. With this, we have completed the News Today discussion for today. And if you want to read further about the current affairs of Vision IAS and you want to solve the smart quiz, you can visit the digital current affairs website of Vision IAS and please solve the question visible on your screen. Thank you and all the best for your preparation.